welcome back to the second channel. Today we're doing our tradition of opening up the World Championship decks, or I guess I just open up them in general on this channel. In the past I've opened up sealed ones from old years. Now I have the 2025 World Championship decks. It's actually the earliest I've ever had these decks with them coming out, because usually I just waited to get them as a Christmas gift. I opened up, I believe, the 2023 decks on my channel. Maybe I might have not opened up those ones. No, I didn't open up those ones on a channel. But I did open up, what was it? I opened up like 2013 decks, and I opened up some of the 2012 decks and stuff like that too, I feel like. I don't remember. I didn't open up 2024 because 2024 was decks that made me irrationally angry, and just some decisions that they made with the World Championship decks that also made me angry, that I'll be talking about with these as well, since I didn't get to cover them with the 2024 video. But the 2024 video was way too negative. It was just 1 hour of me complaining, so I won't be doing that here. It'll be a little bit more positive this time around. We have all 4 decks. I usually wait to pick these up until Christmas gift, but I got these 3 in Oregon when I was there, which is a no-tax state, and I got them for less than MSRP, so that is beneficial, I suppose. We're going to be opening it up one at a time, and the third one that I open up will actually be the 300th completed deck in my collection. So, whichever one I choose to open up, number 3, will be the thing. We're going to start with my least favorite of the 4 decks, which is Poltnor. Now, if you followed me around the time that I was watching the 2025 World Championships on my Twitter timeline, live tweeting, stuff like that, I believe Poltnor was the deck that was going to win Worlds. I had that going in, so getting second place in Masters is no small feat, for sure. Getting second place in Juniors as well. I believe that besides Gardevoir, Poltnor really doesn't have any bad matchups in this format. It's just that it has a bad Gardevoir matchup, and Gardevoir is very good. Poltnor is, of course, based around Dragapult, which is currently the strongest card in the standard format. And because Gardevoir is gone now, it kind of just gets to do whatever it wants uninhibited. Here's the playmat. Unfortunately, these are not very usable, but if you get them laminated somehow, then maybe they could be usable then. I've considered that before. Haven't done it yet. Here is the booklet. These are always one of my favorites. Comes with... Sorry, I'm sniffly. I just went out for a walk and then sneezed, so... It was hosted in California. Unfortunately, not really the place that I would want it to be hosted. I think it's cool when they host worlds around the world, and they've already hosted in the United States so many times. So it'd be cool to see it in more locations. Especially would have been cool to see it in Spain with the whole Paldea theme. So, Jolt Dango, which is one of the decks we'll open up, won in Seniors, beating out Gabriel Fernandez, who is now banned from the Pokémon TCG. Riley Piquet won in Masters with Gardevoir over Poltnor. And in Juniors, Raging Bolt won over Poltnor as well with Jose Cruz. So just had some kind of pictures and deck lists as well. We don't need these for really keeping deck lists anymore, but you know, this used to be a great way to archive deck lists in the time before we had everything being published everywhere. Man, I'm sniffly. We have the Milotic EX deck, which is actually pretty cool, which took 4th in Juniors, which I was not expecting. I forgot that happened. But a cool, like, tanky wall deck. And we have our other deck lists from Seniors, and of course Masters as well. Bit of an upset this year with some of the names of the decks. What you call it? Riley McKay wanted to name his deck KSI's Gardevoir or something like that. Obviously, that's not going to go through with copyright and stuff like that. So when they rename decks and you don't get, the player does not get their choice, they usually have a second and third choice, I believe. But so one of the second and third choices was Flutter Devo Guardy, just a more generic name. In the past, we saw examples where Jason Lazinski's deck, which was supposed to be named Klazrai, was just renamed to Darkrai deck and not given any cool title, which is a bit of a shame. Justin Neudorf is the Poltnor player who got second in Masters. Unfortunately, this did not get printed as the list. I believe this is probably the biggest upset of these 4 decks for me, is that they did not print Justin Neudorf's deck. Generally, when they print World Championship decks, you get the first place Masters, first place Seniors, and first place Juniors, all 3 age divisions. Then you get one more deck, usually that should be second place Masters if there's no kind of overlap, which there would not be. But unfortunately, we had first place or second place Juniors get printed as the Poltnor list instead. I'm happy Poltnor got printed, but I feel like we should be choosing the Masters lists, which are the most competitive. I've gotten into this on Twitter before. Really a shame. Not to discount the junior players at all, but the Masters division is the highest level competitive point of the game. So the lists are naturally going to be more competitive. We had Raging Bull get 3rd in Masters, and then also Charizard had a surprise resurgence at Worlds after kind of just falling off that year. Randomly just showed up again at Worlds. These are always my favorite, these booklets. I love them to bits. That's the only one we're going to look at, because they all 4 have the same booklet. And the fun lore, I guess, with this year is that because I was upset at them choosing that list, of these lists rather, for the 2025 World Championship decks, I built my own set of decks. So I'm going to have a weird amount of decks for this format. Usually my gauntlets are all in 9s, in like multiples of 9. But for the 2025 World Championship decks, I'm going to end up having 13 decks. I built my own Gardevoir, and I built my own Poltnor, and I built the Gumi 35 Justin Newdorf list. So there's that right there. So a bit weird, but it's kind of my way of protesting the fact that I do believe that they made a mistake. So these decks will be like, I'll probably play the decks sometimes, but definitely not going to play them as much as I do some of the other Worlds decks, because I have a, version of them that I have built with real cards. In the case of Gardevoir, I decided to build a card that's like 1 card different from Calvin Connor's top 16 Gardevoir list, which plays Drifloon, was a lot more akin to what I want in a Gardevoir list. So if I was going to build my own Dragapult list, I was going to build my own Gardevoir list too. Cool deck box. I love these deck boxes to bits, but they do not... they're not usable for anything except for just dividers, because they're super flimsy, and if you sleeve your cards, they don't fit anymore, which is a huge shame. New to the World Championships in 2024, 1 card in each deck has a gold signature. So this right here being the star card right here, if I can shine the light on the gold signature. I do not like the gold signature at all, because I'd rather just have 60 cards with matching signatures. And that was one of my complaints that I rambled on about for like 5 minutes in the 2024 video that didn't end up getting posted. I'm going to stop at the fact that I just really don't like it, and it looks bad and tacky. And we'll call it good enough with that. Code card gives you the stuff for live, which I need to give one for myself. And we have the Anaheim coin, which I'm a big fan of these. I don't use these, but they're very cool. And for people who do use coins, these are very cool decorative coins. And the pin is Pikachu, which it is every year. I have quite a lot of the pins at this point. I used to have, I think, 1 of each, but I gave them to a friend. A lot of them to my friend Emily, so she could complete her collection, because she actually cared about collecting them when I just was hoarding them because I had them. So the Poltnor deck, it's actually in order. That's nice. That makes my life a little bit easier. Oh, it's not in order, it's just in random order with stacked cards. Cool. Poltnor deck is based around Dragapult EX, which is currently the strongest card in the standard format. One of the reasons why it's the strongest card is this Dracloak. And Dracloak lets you draw 1 card from the top 2 cards of your deck, and then the other one goes to the bottom. This ability's been playable in every rendition it's been introduced. It was first put into the game as Uxie Level X in 2008, where it proceeded to win the 2010 World Championships and beat a lot of other decks at the time, including like multiple junior, senior winning lists. It then got printed again as Airmail Pidgeotto, which was a very strong control strategy in 2019, got top 8 at Worlds that year, and I think those are the only 2 times it's come back until Dracloak. But Dracloak, very good. Having a built-in draw engine into your evolution line is really good. And then Dragapult just does 200 damage and spreads 6 on your opponent's bench Pokemon any way you like. This is really big because Dragapult is really big, and you get to kind of set up damage without taking knockouts, which is actually a really big deal. Sometimes you don't want to instantly take a knockout on your opponent because there are effects that benefit a player for not taking knockouts. One of the things you also notice is that Dragapult has no weakness, which is kind of a problem, but there is a way around that. I don't want to do a full deck profile, but we'll just go over the main pieces. The other major part of the deck is this Duskull line. We have a 2/2/1 Dusknoir. Dusclops knocks itself out and puts 5 damage counters on your opponent's Pokemon, giving your opponent a prize card. And then Dusknoir has the same ability, but it knocks itself out and puts 13 damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon. And kind of the goal with this style of deck is that you're going to slow them down by item locking them with Badoo in the opening turns, and you're kind of going to have your opponent have a weak board when you attack for the first time with Dragapult. And then you're either going to devastate their board with your first attack by blowing up a bunch of Dusknoir's Duskulls, or you're going to kind of play a longer game where you hit them like twice with Phantom Dive and then blow up your board, and the third attack just takes like 6 prize cards at once. Pheasantipity is really good evil card that says you may draw 3 cards if one of your Pokemon is knocked out during your opponent's last turn. Another huge benefit of Dragapult is being able to attack without taking knockouts means you can prevent your opponent from using Pheasantipity. Pheasantipity basically prevents comeback from being a thing in a lot of formats that it's been legal in. Currently, it doesn't feel awful in the standard format, and in 2025 it didn't feel miserable, but it is a pretty badly designed card in terms of how it interacts with other cards. And then this deck also plays Hawlucha and Genesect for some Ace Canceller, stops your opponent from playing their Ace spec cards if there's a tool on Genesect, and Hawlucha's extra damage, allowing Phantom Dive's 6 damage counters to become 7 to actually knock out your opponent's benched Pokemon that are like Dreepies or like Ralts. Like I said, I believe this deck was the best deck for the 2025 World Championships, other than the fact that it loses to Gardevoir. Because we did not have, unfortunately, 2025 Worlds did not have this Psyduck, which is an important counter to the Dusknoir line. Now, it doesn't stop the Dusknoir line from being good, but it provides counterplay that would allow decks to more aptly answer Dragapult. The one thing that Jose's list very much omits is it adds the Genesect in exchange for Latias, and Latias is one of the most important cards in the Pokémon deck that's absent here. It gives your basic Pokemon free retreat, allowing you to retreat into Badoo on the first turn and not losing an energy attachment, because this deck actually does not have very many energy cards. Losing an attachment can be very, very game-breaking, especially in this format because Monkey Dory's here, and Monkey Dory takes Darkness Energy to be active, so maintaining attachments on your board is very important. And then the rest of it's just supporters and trainers. The one thing I do want to cover with these supporters in general is that Iono is here, and that is one of those cards that benefits you for not taking knockouts and punishes your opponent for taking knockouts, because it gives your opponent less cards in hand. So this deck being able to avoid taking knockouts is pretty big. And then we have Research is also very strong. One of the things I actually like about 2025 Worlds is that we do not have Lily's Determination in this format. That would come out after this format. And Lily's Determination really makes a lot of these decks kind of riskless. You just draw whenever you want. Whereas Research had like this interesting factor of holding hands versus getting rid of hands that made it a little bit more skillful to the card. And I appreciated that, because a lot of my opponents would lose the game because they decided to aggressively draw. Lily kind of takes that away, unfortunately. New to this format is also Hilda. Hilda's a very good card that allows you to find your A-Spec, or sorry, find your energy, which is an A-Spec in this deck. And that is the other most important card in this deck, is the Neo Upper Energy, which is an A-Spec that counts as 2 energy of any type when attached to a stage 2. So, Dragapult, or you can also attack with Dusknoir. I've seen it done before. I do not have sleeves for the decks right now. I'm actually out of sleeves, so they're just going to sit around my house until I decide to sleeve them up later. I'm also out of deck boxes, so they're just going to actually sit in their natural deck boxes for now. Again, not very happy about this list being chosen over the Masters list, because I do believe it is a less good list. But the player is, of course, very talented for reaching the finals of the World Championships. There's no doubt that, getting that far is a very, very challenging experience. There's no bad players at that level of the game. Next up, we'll do let's do Goldango. Goldango is another weird pick as this world deck. It is Jolt Dango, so it's not just Goldango, it is Joltik Box Goldango. Now, going into Worlds, Joltik Box and Goldango were known entities, but Goldango was kind of on the underrated side because people didn't realize how good it was with the new cards released by Black and White, whereas Joltik Box was its own archetype. At Worlds, we saw the debut of Joltango really kind of get itself into the spotlight. It's a list that most people had not been really playing up until that point. Was this Joltango deck, which combines the two decks together into one deck. And I do think it's better than just plain Joltik Box in this format because Goldango is very, very good in this format. Unfortunately, that means we did not get an actual Goldango EX deck. There's a bit of an upset at Worlds where Piper Lapine, who probably should have won the World Championship, got a really bad prizing situation where she prized like 3 of her baby Goldango guys, the coin guy, and ended up losing her match, which probably should not have happened, but sometimes bad stuff happens, and you get a completely different result because of that bad stuff happening. So we could have seen Goldango be world champion, and that would have given us a Goldango deck that was dedicated. Because of that incident, and because I feel like to play this format accurately, you do need a dedicated Goldango deck, I ended up building my own Goldango deck, which is Piper Lapine's list. So, cool energy. I do believe that you cannot accurately play this format if you do not have a regular Goldango deck, because Goldango is really the kind of the deck that came out at Worlds as like, this is a crazy, strategy that's going to take us to the top. Main thing about Joltik Box you need to know is Joltik accelerates 2 grass and 2 lightning energy from the deck to your bench Pokemon, however you like. Or attach them to your Pokemon, so you can attach them to Joltik, you're not going to do that. And you have things like Miraidon and Iron Hands to power up with them. Primarily Iron Hands, because Iron Hands, his attack takes an extra prize card, so you want to use that just in the early game, take an extra prize card against your opponent. Like these evolution decks like Dragapult and like Gardevoir have like these 70 HP basics that you can kill with Ampy very much for extra prizes. And one of the big things to note about this deck is because Miraidon has that useful tandem unit ability, you can use one of your nest balls and then just find Miraidon and you instantly find Joltik and Iron Hands. Kind of was what makes these decks go in a way they don't really otherwise get set up, because you can just get one nest ball and you instantly have Joltik and Iron Hands. The other biggest part of this deck, again, is Latias. Now, Latias is one of my least favorite cards of all time, but it's very important in this deck. Gives your basic Pokemon for your treat, so you can get into Joltik on turn 1 and attach an energy for that Jolting charge. Again, the other half of this deck is the Goldango side. So you have 4 Gimmighoul, 2 Goldango. Make sure you get those out, even when your opponent's sniping your bench. And what's huge this format for Goldango was the introduction of Genesect EX, which lets you find 2 of your evolution. Oh, actually, there's 3 Goldango. There we go. Forgot about the gold signed one. Lets you find your Goldangos from the deck. You get to search your deck for any 2 evolution metal Pokemon, which is kind of crazy that they printed that card. And then also Air Balloon was also huge for Goldango, giving it for your treat. It's another thing that came up big in this format why Goldango is so popular. And was basically popular for the rest of the entire time it was around. It was just the deck to beat the rest of the time. We also have Pikachu here as an attacker that does 300 damage and can potentially dodge a knockout. So that's why he is here for that Joltik Box combo. Every Joltik Box had Pikachu because Pikachu was very good. We have our 4 Arven. Arven is like the best supporter card in the entire 2025 format. Being able to find the exact cards you want felt really good. I'm sad that Arven's gone now, because it feels like every day I log on to PTCG Live and I lose to some bullshit theme deck that does not feel good to play against. I miss Arven. Rewarding, very good and conservative playing. This deck also has Buddy Poffins to find its Gimmighouls and its Joltiks, because one of the cool things is if you can just find your Joltik with the Buddy Poffin, then you can use your Nest Ball to find Latias to get that for your treat, which is pretty good. And we've got ways to search our energy, and the big thing about this deck is that once you use your Iron Hands and Iron Hands goes down, you can use Superior Energy Retrieval to get those 4 energy back from the discard pile that were on Iron Hands, and now Goldango can discard those energy from your hand to do more damage. So that's why it's here. Again, Air Balloon's very big for this deck and very big for Goldango in general. And we have the energy. Gotta have a lot of energy in this deck because Goldango is there to discard them, but also you need to have enough where you're getting a full power Jolting Charge off. So, and you also have to have 3 types, so you have Jolting Charge and you have Goldango's energy. I like this deck, even if it's not fun to play against. It's creative. It takes a lot of different aspects of the metagame and puts them together in a way that's kind of unconventional. I do not like that these cards don't have the World's Border anymore, but, much ado about nothing there. Put that together, put the back in the box. There we go. Now, whichever deck I choose as number 3 to open is going to be my 300th deck in my collection. Take your guess right now on which of these 2 decks I will open as the number 3 deck. Meaning that this will be the 300th deck in my collection. This is like a notable milestone, I guess. I don't know. If the answer you guessed was 2010 Charizard, then you're right. 2010 Charizard is the 300th deck in my collection. There we go. Anyway, let's open up Raging Bolt third. We'll save the Masters winning deck for last. A lot of people prefer the Ascended Heroes format over 2025 Worlds, and I can see some reasons for that. Ascended Heroes adds Mega Evolutions into the format, which I thought was a negative addition, but some people really liked Sloppany and Mega Kangaskhan and Absolop. Lots of different things you can add to the format in that regard. Personally, I'm not a big fan. I like Absol. Absol's cool, and I played Kangaskhan throughout that format, which is like a quad Kangaskhan healing deck. But like the fact that deck's like viable in the first place kind of is stupid, but you know. Need to beat Dragapult, need to beat Gardevoir, so I queued that up on ladder. There's those, again. And we have the deck. Raging Bolt was a popular deck kind of throughout all of like 2020, like later half of 2025 and 2026, and it's still a deck that exists now. So you can't play these cards, they're not tournament legal, they have a different back, but theoretically, if they let you, you could do that. There we go, and got owls. There we go, there's all of our cards that should be shiny that aren't shiny. Biggest thing for this deck is Teal Mask Ogerpon, which has that ability that lets accelerate one energy card, one grass energy from your hand to Ogerpon, and then you get to draw a card. It is a very, very powerful ability we have found. When it first came out, we all kind of knew it was going to be decent. Everyone had the idea that, like, oh yeah, this is like a, pretty strong ability, but we didn't really realize the potential that this ability had long-term and just allowing these decks to, play whatever they want, and they just consistently draw through their deck every single turn, because they don't have any issues drawing through their deck. One thing I will give props on, actually, these use the black and white energy, which is very nice. Black Bolt White Flare came out for Worlds this year. In 2011, one of the biggest missed opportunities, I have 2011 decks over here, let's actually get them out. I have the truth. Let's get that out. One of the biggest missed opportunities in 2011 was that they did not use the cool checkerboard energy in their World Championship decks. They used this plain Jane, generic Johnny energy. They fixed that this year. They used the proper energy cards. That was another complaint I had about 2024's decks, is 2024's decks, their energy cards didn't exist. So, let's look at Miraidon. This is our 2024 Worlds deck, and these energy right here were released in English with the Stellar Crown set, which was not out by the time the World Championships happened. So the energy in the 2024 decks don't even exist, which was another thing I complained about for a while. Like, I am a huge fan of era accuracy, having these decks be representative of the era they come from. They messed up really badly on that, in my books. But they fixed it this year. Much better. This deck's got the Hooters. Got a full 3/3 line of the Hooters. These are really big. They let you, if you have a Terra Pokemon in play, you get to, when you evolve into Noctowl, you get to search your deck for 2 trainer cards. And our Terra Pokemon of choice is, of course, that Ogerpon, which has the little Terra rule box that weirdly comes up sometimes, but it exists. And use this to keep your deck consistent, to find the trainer cards you want each turn. Raging Bolt is a guy that discards a bunch of energy from your board and does 70 for each one. We have a bunch of energy. We have guys that attach energy. We also have Trainer card, which our Hooters can find us, that also attaches energy. We also have item cards that find energy. Oh wait, there's a 4th one. I figured there would be. There's other trainer cards that attach energy. This deck is all about just attaching energy cards. That's the deck. And then you discard them and your opponent dies. More trainers. Wow, we have the big 3 here of what you call it, Hitler Juniors of basic Pokemon that should not have been printed that are in this format. Squawkabilly's fine. I don't hate Squawkabilly as much. I do hate Fan Rotom though. Fan Rotom's kind of what makes these decks go. It's fan calls. If you're on your first turn, you can search your deck for 3 colorless Pokemon with 100 HP or less. Look what that's 100 HP or less. You can grab the Hooters and the Nox. Straight from the deck. Fan Rotom itself, the search effect is fine. It's a little broken, but fine. But the fact it also has an attack that does 70 damage for 1 energy was really annoying for evolution decks to deal with. A lot of donks happen in GLC and in Standard with that guy around. And we also have these 2. Raging Bolt was the little Raging Bolt here is a huge part of why the deck is good in this format. It just does 30 damage times the amount of energy attached to this Raging Bolt to one of your opponent's Pokemon. Now this doesn't seem very good. It takes 2 different types of energy, and you really need to do 90 damage to do like a relevant snipe. I guess you can do 60, kill a Duskull, but really 90 damage is what you're looking for. But against evolution attacks, being able to snipe like their Ralts or their Curly on the bench is really good. And then my least favorite other card in this deck, man, this deck's just got so many cards I don't like in it, is this Ditto. He is a colorless guy, which means you can find him with Fan Rotom, and if he's in your active spot, you get to switch him with one of your other Pokemon. So what this deck does is turn 1 you Fan Rotom and you find your Ditto, and then at any point you can move the Ditto active with your Free Retreat Latias, which is another thing that shouldn't exist, and then switch it into any other basic Pokemon from your deck. And then you discard Ditto, which is fine. I don't like that combo at all. The Ditto itself is fine. Latias is what makes it gross. We have balls to find Pokemon. We have things to be annoying, and Area 0 Underdepths is really cool. Bring back the old Skyfield effect of having 8 benched Pokemon if you have a Terra Pokemon in play, and there you go, you have Ogerpon as your Terra Pokemon. Which also means that if your opponent knocks out your Ogerpon to potentially take out your energy source, they could potentially allow you to discard your Pokemon from play, which seems like a bad thing, but you can discard guys that you don't want in play, like Squawkabilly or Rotom, once their job is done. So, deck number 301 is Raging Bolt. And to be honest, it's got a lot of cards that I hate in the deck, but I don't hate the deck itself, if that makes sense. It's a good balancing force to have in the format, I feel like. Helps keep the slower decks in check a little bit. Helps keep tank decks from getting too broken. Things like, Kangaskhan, that would be popular later in the year, were in part popular because there wasn't as much Raging Bolt around. Because Raging Bolt got a lot worse when, ironically, a Kirlia with 100 HP came out, which meant that they could no longer snipe Kirlias on the bench. Like, that was literally how much it took to put this deck in a bad spot in the metagame, as Gardevoir got 10 more HP on its evolution, so you can no longer snipe them. Speaking of Gardevoir, here it is. One set after this, Gardevoir would get buffed even more, with a new Kirlia and a new Ralts that were much better. And it also got Lily's Determination, which is a card that I have spoken about that I don't like. I like Lily as a character. I like the Lily in the video games. I like the Lily from Sun and Moon Ultra Prism that draws you until you have 6 cards in your hand. I do not like the Lily that shuffles and draws 8 cards in your hand. That was a bit of an oversight. But thankfully, it's not in this format. There we go. We have playmat again, booklet again, and we have the Gardevoir deck. It's supposed to be KSI's Gardevoir. I'm kind of glad it's not called KSI's Gardevoir, but at least I wish that Riley McKay would have come up with a second creative name instead of Flutter Devo Guardy, which is like the most vanilla name possible. I don't know what to say. We've seen all the other stuff. Let's get right into the deck. Gardevoir was a deck that I played throughout all of 2023 and 2024. But during 2025, I didn't want to play Guardy. I played Guardy during the Mega Evolution format, which is the format after this, because it just felt like Guardy was the best deck by far. But I didn't want to play Guardy in 2025. I was kind of just forced to, because Guardy was so broken that I was like, what else do I play? So for most of the 2025, I played Grimmsnarl, and I played Kangaskhan later on, which is more of a silly deck, but I just didn't want to play Guardy because that was like the third year in a row that I would be playing Guardy. I should have just stuck with my Guardy experience and taken advantage of that, I suppose. Let's make sure we get out all of our pieces. There we go, we need Monkey. And we need Research. I am a huge fan that they picked both the black and white energy cards to put in these decks, and the Juniper Research, which is my research of choice for 2025 Worlds, being that I grew up with Gen 5. I like Professor Kukui and Professor Juniper the most out of all the professors, so glad to have that. This deck is based around Gardevoir, which allows you to attach as many psychic energy from your discard pile as you like with its ability Psychic Embrace, but you take 20 damage on the Pokemon you damage in that way. 20 damage seems like a downside, but it's actually made into an upside because of Monkey Dory. Monkey Dory says that if you have a dark energy attached to Monkey Dory, you get to move 30 damage from, or up to 30 damage from one of your Pokemon to one of your opponent's Pokemon. So you can build up damage on one of your Pokemon and then move that damage to your opponent's side. Kind of like Benetti X from 2007, which used Rainbow Energy to hurt itself and then move that over to your opponent. And then this deck doesn't have Drifloon, which was typically played, but it does have a suite of attackers here. I'll get the Drifloon out just for reference of why I play Drifloon, because again, I have this deck built. I have one card off of Calvin Connor's list for Worlds that year. So let's go find him. There he is. Drifloon was typically, I'd say, about 50-50 played in generic Gardevoir decks, because there was also Jellicent Gardevoir, which is an item lock deck. But typically, if you're playing vanilla Gardevoir, about 50% of them would have this Drifloon, which does 30 times the amount of damage counters on Drifloon. So you would attach 5 energy to it. You'd boost its HP, first of all, with the Bravery Charm to give it 120 HP. And then Drifloon would hit for 300 damage, which is up to 360 thanks to, you know, potentially 330, 360 with Monkey Dory. So that is why typically they would play. It's a very obvious combo piece that released alongside Gardevoir. But for this list, Riley McKay decided to play Flutter Mane, which is a bit of an interesting tech. I played this a lot in 2024 because it's very, very good in the mirror match. It does 90 and 20 to 2 of your opponents. You put 2 damage counters on 2 of your opponent's bench Pokemon. This is very good because you can knock out something like a Curlia, or you can knock out something like a Screamtail or a Monkey Dory, something your opponent's using to attack you, while also applying bench damage, potentially taking a double knockout. It's also good because of its ability lock, which can sometimes be helpful at stopping things like Ditto or Fan Rotom, you know, that we just saw. And it can also just kind of put your opponent in an awkward spot, where in the mirror you can gust up a Gardevoir, and if they only have one Gardevoir in play, the Gardevoir can't use its ability to attach energy if it's stuck in the active spot when Flutter Mane's there. Now, this doesn't always work. There's ways around it, but typically it's a pretty decent strategy. It has a lot of value in a lot of different matchups, but it wasn't a card that was very much seen in 2025, kind of had been absent from lists. It's just one of those cards that was very hard for players to get the maximum value out of. One of the most important cards in this deck is Lily's Clefairy, which allows your Psychic Pokemon to hit Dragon Pokemon for weakness. Dragon Pokemon otherwise have no weakness, and Dragapult otherwise had no adversary. Now you have a Psychic type that turns all your Psychic types into hitting them for weakness. And if you watch that World's Finals, it was not that impactful. It was kind of Gardevoir hits Dragapult for weakness, and it's a bad matchup for Dragapult. We have Iono again, lots of comeback potential in these formats. Despite the fact that Pheasantipity exists, this deck is great at shutting down Pheasantipity, with Screamtail able to snipe the bench, probably the most valuable attacker in the Gardevoir engine, to be honest. And we have lots of... Where's our item cards? They're there. We have Ultra Balls to discard our energy and find our Pokemon. We have Earthen Vessels to discard cards from our hand like energy and find more energy. We have Nest Balls to find our basics. We have Counter Catcher, which is a huge thing we haven't even run into yet. Which, if you're behind, you get to gust your opponent like a Boss's Orders effect. If you're behind, very dominant card throughout the entire time it was around, especially in these slow decks. We have ways to recover our Pokemon, and we have Rare Candy to get into Gardevoir. Oh yeah, also recovery here. Oh, it does have one Bravery Charm in this deck, just doesn't have the Drifloon to use it best, but you can still put that on Screamtail or one of your basic Pokemon, make them hard to knock out. If you put it on Mew, it can make it very, very difficult for Dragapult to knock out Mew by giving it like 230 HP. And then we have the Evolution and Devolution cards, which are pretty cool. Arvin can grab these, and then you can set up your board. Devolution was also a tech that wasn't really seen in Gardevoir that much this year, but was seen in this one. Like, it wasn't absent from decks the same way that Fluttermane was, but it wasn't that common either, if that makes sense. This is a deck that won Worlds in the Masters Division. Again, the main thing that I didn't like that it was missing was the Drifloon, because I was always playing Drifloon when I was playing Gardevoir that year. And then I believe, do I run the one copy of Boss in here? I forget. Don't think I do. I remember in Mega Evolution format I was running one copy of Boss, but I don't think I was in this format. Because Counter Catcher is just really, really good in this format. Those are the 4 World Championship decks from 2025. Overall, disappointed that they picked a Juniors list rather than a Masters list for Poltnor. However, a very good set of decks overall. Very good choice of energy. I don't like the gold signatures still, but I can forgive it. These are pretty good, especially compared to 2024, which was like all of the least fun decks in existence, and they're all like messed up, and one of my cards came damaged in my deck too. Like, I was having a miserable time with that. These are a little bit better.